Oh, I think I wanted to be Indiana Jones when I was in the fourth grade. Which turns out not to be like a job one could get.
Yeah, but that's sort of, you've been on a version of that.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor. Here we are. I'm RJ Scrinch. I'm the CEO and founder of Rivian. We build electric cars. I also started an industrial robotics company called Mind Robotics. You have the same questions as I do. So.
Yeah. My name is Brett Taylor. I'm the co-founder of Sierra. We help companies make AI agents for their customer experience. I'm also chairman of the board of OpenAI. Let's take off the mask, RJ. So who starts here? Can I start?
I think, yeah, you want to start?
Yeah, so there's lots of people out of their dorm room starting software companies. Very few people start a car company. Tell us the story.
Boy, what a great way to start. So since I was a kid, I knew I wanted to build a car company. And from those really early...
Wait, you can't just... From you're a kid, you want to start a car company?
And when I was
not like you didn't like cars, like you wanted to start...
I loved cars.
Yeah, well, I get that,
loved cars.
How do you get from that to wanting to start a car company? As opposed to work for a car company race cars or things that like...
Well, it was one of those things that I had as a dream as a kid, and it was unrealistic and unreasonable. I remember I told my dad, I was in like the 4th or 5th grade, and fortunately my dad's the kind of person who was like, yeah, you should totally do that. And so he just like leaned into it, and I started surrounding myself with all the things I need to learn. So I worked as a machinist.
Where was that?
In a local machine shop. I worked in a restoration shop, and then I ultimately went to school for engineering. But it was always like I knew I wanted to start this company, but I didn't have any clue what that meant. I didn't have any money when I started the company, so it was like a very hard process to build momentum around the tech and around the team while we slowly raised capital. And as you know, the venture capital community wasn't exactly jumping in and investing in car companies 15 years ago. So
like a social network for cars?
Yeah.
No, a car. Yeah.
A car, the actual car. If I could get a meeting, which was a big if, like the fireworks of how badly those meetings would go is just, now I look back, it's like comical, because it'd be like, wait, you seem like a sort of smart guy. Why are you wasting all of your intelligence on this company? I have this other thing, you should try that. And I'd end up by the end having to reconvince myself that it was a good idea.
I feel like a lot of companies, startups, have those moments of sort of near-death experiences that kind of define them. Like, what was the one or two that like defined Rivian? I imagine, especially just given the capital requirements, yours more than most businesses.
Well, it was also a journey of learning for me, because I was intellectually honest when I started that this would take a lot of capital. The first check into the company was I'd refinanced a house that I owned, so it was $100,000. My dad refinanced a house that he owned. It was like $200,000. And I love the idealism that I had, that thought that $300,000 together was enough to start the car company. But I think the more acute early points were we went from the company just being me to having a handful of employees, all of which were people that didn't have kids, were really early, like fresh out of school or interns, to then suddenly having people join the company that were leaving other jobs, to then having people that were leaving other jobs that had families. And so it was one of our early holiday parties that I remember looking around the room and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of kids in here. And I was young, I was 26 when I started the company. I was like, wow, if this doesn't work, I'm like letting down all those kids. And this has to work. We were just joking, you said when you're in the 4th grade, you were thinking you wanted to be Indiana Jones. And I maybe accurately said, that's sort of a metaphor for how things have been at times for you. But describe your journey.
I started working at Google, but it was because the dot-com bubble had burst. So I was at Stanford, which was a great place to be in 1999, not so much in 2002. The job fair went from 2,000 startups to tumbleweed blowing through, and Google was one of the last companies standing, so sort of lucked into a great job there. Co-created Google Maps, which I love looking at on my Rivian screen. Since then, been at a few companies, started a few companies, and now working on AI, like everyone else in Silicon Valley, a company called Sierra, where our whole thesis in starting the company was that AI isn't just a tool for automation, but actually a way to communicate with your customers. I think if it were 1995 and we were sitting here, we'd be talking about like why Rivian needed a website, and why that would change the way you'd engage. I think the same is true of AI agents. But sort of the point on the entrepreneurial journey, when I started my first company,